Yep. Hi, everyone. I'll give it just another minute here. Looks like people are slowly coming in, then we'll get started. All right, looks like while people are joining, I'll just get started on some housekeeping. Thank you, everyone, for joining our last webinar of 2025. We're really excited to end it on this 2026 annual research plan. Just a couple of notes. Everything is being recorded, so we'll have this on our website as well as the research plan, because I think the team will be asking for some feedback at the end. If you have any questions, please raise your hand, drop your question in the chat, or wait till the end. If you want to come off mute, just throw that in the chat, raise your hand. I'll try to keep track of everything. And with that, I will hand it over to our presenters.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Stephen Long, and I'm with ICF, and we implement the Gas Emerging Technologies program on behalf of SoCalGas that administers the program. So both I and Eliza, do you want to briefly introduce yourself?
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Eliza Khan. I work at Linkus. We're a consulting firm, and I work with ICF and Stephen. And for this year's annual research plan, Stephen and our team work together to update everything from the 2025 plan to the future 2026 plan.
All right, thank you. So this is, as Eliza indicated, our annual update. We do this every year. For those of you who are involved with the other emerging technologies program in California, CalNext, as well as this program, we also generate a technologies priority map. Technologies priority map we presented last month and is in alignment with this. This is probably a little nearer term as to what we have as far as real projects and or planned projects. So we're going to walk through this today. Eliza's going to go over some of the policy background and the first few sets of goals, and I'll go through the last two, and we'll ask questions along, or you're welcome to ask questions along the way. So Eliza, go at it.
Thanks, Stephen. Okay, so going through some of the policy updates. So this research plan has looked more or less like this since I think 2022. So obviously the content has been updated and changed. However, the major background of everything is similar. So I'll just go over the changes there, and then everyone is free to read over everything and see those specific changes, though I will try to highlight any of those major changes. So there's no big changes in the background. With regard to policy changes and updates in the regulatory landscape, the 2026 plan continues to track major California policies affecting gas technologies, including this decision, the CPUC decision D230435, which eliminates non-exempt and non-cost-effective gas energy efficiency measures in most residential and new construction programs. So the 2026 plan essentially notes that the outcome of the viable electric alternative, or the VEA technical guidance process, is still pending. As of Q4 of this year, we don't have any major updates there, and I believe we were supposed to, so that's still something we're tracking. Furthermore, AB3, I think it's the Assembly Bill 3246, which is right here, requires the additional reporting from EE programs. These legislative actions require more reporting and scrutiny of utility programs. They don't directly impact gas EE measures, and the 2026 plan continues to reiterate the general concern about these utility costs and program effectiveness. Moving on to air qualities and standards. The 2026 plan highlights ongoing regulatory movement towards zero emission standards for space and water heaters, which is CARB's 2030 target, with more clarity still to be expected in future years. The Air Quality Management District, they have the rule 1146.2, and the 2026 plan updates this compliance for zero NOx emission standards for water heaters, pool heaters, boilers, and process heaters. The first compliance deadline for new installations is January 1st, 2026, with phase deadlines through 2033. So that's something we're tracking. We did have a bit of a legal challenge where the 2026 plan notes ongoing litigation. I think the Renai America Corp versus the Air Quality Management District regarding federal preemption of local appliance standards. And as of the court decision in July 2020, there is no court decision as of July 2025, so we're still tracking that. Continuing on, I think this is a little bit more information there if anyone wants to know specifics. With regard to building efficiency codes, there were updates in 2025, and the 2026 plan updates this new code requirements, which were adopted in September of 2024, and they will be effective in January of 2026. So they're now going to be included, including solar thermal pool heating mandates, heat pump requirements for space and water heating, electric ready building standards for water heating and cooking, as well as updates to controls, ventilation, and storage standards. So these are just new building efficiency codes that we'll have to account for as of 2026 or as of January 2026. Additionally, we have incentive benchmarking. The 2026 plan introduces a new analytical study to benchmark utility energy efficiency incentives against carbon-based incentives. Basically, valuing avoided GHG emissions from past. This aims to harmonize future program design and align new incentives with the decarbonization goals. So, in summary, the plan continues to emphasize the need to monitor and adopt evolving state and local policies, especially as they affect the viability of gas technologies, and our transition to electrification. So the 2026 plan sets forth these technology areas, and the following areas that we're not going to be covering is net power generation, the utility side of the meter, early R&D projects. So this is from the TPM. If you guys were around for that meeting, anything less than TRL8 we're not necessarily covering in this map. That's more for the TPM. The research plan, as Stephen said, is more of a what we're focusing on near term. The last thing I think before we move on to specifics is, so these tables and stuff, these are from previous years. Not much updates have happened here. The one thing I wanted to add is that in the 2026 plan, well, before I do that, these are the research outcomes as from between 2022, when I think this plan went into effect, to now. This is the research that was undertaken in all of these following areas, and we'll talk about the updates from 2025 to 2026. But essentially, these are the projects that are either completed or active. So we've conducted at least 4 cooking equipment projects, or we're in the process of that, 3 HVAC projects, 2 miscellaneous, 3 or 6 with regard to process loads, 22 water heating projects, and whole building projects, come out to about 7. So these are all the projects that were either completed or currently working on between those years. One change that was made in 2025, which we are carrying into 2026, and this was also discussed in the TPM update and is in the technology priority map for anyone who wants to see that, is to have more agile research projects. These are the shorter paper studies to evaluate the potential for specific technologies before we launch into broader projects to quantify them. Leveraging these agile projects for minor extensions to existing projects that don't require a large update. So much of this that we're including, the agile projects that we are including for 2026 are also within the research goals that we're going to move on to. Does anyone have any questions on the policy updates or anything there before I move on to the research goals? Amazing. Okay, so moving on to the specific research goals, as Stephen said, I'll handle the first 3 and then Stephen can take over in the next few. So the water heating technologies, this goal had existed in 2022, 2023, and ongoing. This specific goal, there's continued focus on ongoing research with into gas-fired absorption and adsorption heat pump water heaters. This was introduced, I believe, in 2024. So these are just the updates that I'll share that are new in 2026. There is the hybrid electric gas water heaters. They are added as a new research area for lab testing, reflecting this push for dual fuel flexibility and lower emissions. We're also focusing on newly in 2026 behavioral feedback devices. There's a new goal to evaluate devices such as shower duration indicators, LED faucet aerators that encourage water and energy conservation through user feedback. On top of this, we're also doing expanded field studies. There's going to be more demonstration sites for gas absorption or GAHP systems, if you hear me refer to them as that, gas absorption heat pump systems, including for multifamily and hotel applications. Additionally, we're also focusing on an advancement of the modeling tools. This 2026 plan merges and expands modeling and design tool development for GHPs, including GHP design tool and Energy Plus model calibration. And then we have ongoing testing still going with, so I'll just, if anyone wants specific details on everything, this is where everything is. We are having ongoing hydrogen blend testing that's continuing with more emphasis this next year on real world field data and emissions analysis. I guess that's everything. So those are all the updates for the water heating technologies. However, as you can see, there's much more details explained within this. I just didn't want to bore everyone with reading everything. Moving forward onto HVAC, there aren't too many changes here. We're carrying forward with field studies on hydronic space heating additives and combination systems with water and space heating. Those remain. However, there are some delays in the recruitment still for that project. The major changes between the 2 sub goals of HVAC is the 2026 plan drops the hydronic additive goal and focuses more on the combi systems, like I said, continued exploration for both residential and commercial applications. There are also gas furnace optimizations. There's ongoing work to develop deemed measures for tune-ups and right sizing, and additional field studies planned for HVAC. The next project, I think, commercial food service, which I believe was introduced It was introduced early in the 2022 research plan, but I believe in the last couple years it's really become a major focus and a major goal. The 2026 plan includes continued work under this goal following some SME interviews conducted in 2025 that identified new high potential cooking technologies for further analysis. The focus initially in 2025 was on analyzing GHG intensity on gas-fired cooking equipment. And this is this major goal. In 2026, the work will advance by exploring top SME recommended gas technologies. We're currently working on these, developing targeted exploratory research plans to characterize performance, usage patterns, emissions implications, and cost effectiveness. To determine the sustainability for future pilots or measure development. So that's hopefully what we'll have done, I believe, by Q1 of 2026. There will be additional subject matter expert interviews conducted in 2026. There's hopefully going to be broader research plans as well. This is just a major goal for food service. And then, Stephen, would you like to discuss the industrial and agricultural processes?
Sure. So I will cover the last two sets of goals. So industrial and agricultural processes. Goal 4.1, we've tweaked a little bit over the years, and we've got some ongoing work with the in the CEA space, greenhouse dehumidification and root zone heating are two projects that we continue. Those are both in the ag space. In the industrial space, we continue on with a project of steam trap monitoring. So just objectives. You can scroll down. We're looking at technologies that address these types of process loads. Some of the items under 2 are things that we've talked about and looked at previously. And if you keep scrolling, we've also got a couple potential new ones that we're looking at during the our scanning and screening process in F through H. So then if you go to goal 4.2, this is more related to operational efficiencies, but also in the industrial and ag sectors. We've got a number of other things that we've been looking at. Probably not moving through all of them, but they're new enough that we thought we ought to call them out and and do a little bit more analysis before making decision one way or the other. But these are the items in 4. E has been on our radar for several years. The first 4 are ones that are relatively new that we put on a research plan because we may not do a full-blown study. In fact, I'm doubting we'll do a full-blown study, but we might do a little bit of preliminary work at an agile project. So still remain to be seen how we will screen those out. We've been trying to find a customer for a couple of years. So far, no bites. So if you can scroll on to the next process, so 5 is cross-cutting. These are those things we think will apply across multiple end uses. We introduced this I think a couple of years ago, and this is really just an update on where we stand on these. So the ultra low NOx burners, we did a project on this a couple of years ago. We've already launched a new project to look into a newer version of the burner that we looked at in 2024. We will additionally be looking at potentially gas or 100% hydrogen blend in addition to a hydrogen natural gas blend or natural gas hydrogen blend. Number 2 is one we've been challenged to implement a project on for several years. We have a project that's been scoped. We've done some of the preliminary work, having some challenges getting it coming to fruition. We're hoping that in fact happens next year, but it's been on this. I believe we put it on last year, if I recall right. And then hydrogen blending, rather than putting this under every other category, is something we're focusing on a little bit more, just to look at, what are the implications, and what are the actual values for some of the hydrogen tested equipment. So in a lot of the cases where it's end user equipment, there's sort of a cutoff level about 30% where it's deemed either unsafe and or potentially requires a lot of infrastructure upgrades. So we've been doing the testing at around 30% on both the absorption heat pumps we've been testing in the lab. As I mentioned, the ultra low NOx burner. This go around we'll do we'll do various blends, but we'll run it up to 100%. And we've also are looking into, let's see, I think that's actually the end. I'll leave that to the subsequent end. So if you want to scroll down, yeah. So one of the things we did find is emissions impact, which we certainly expected it on carbon or on CO2, but on some of the other equipment, we've actually found improvements. I'm going to say across the board on other emissions as well. So while our primary focus is energy efficiency, the overriding goal is lower GHG and emissions in general. So some of these technologies are doing all of the above. And you can scroll to 5.3. So we're also doing some conceptual analysis. There's the 30% is to look at the TSB impact. So for those of you working in the state of California on IOU programs, our primary goal metric is total system benefit, which in essence is the value of all the contributions that a measure makes. And that's not only energy savings, but it's GHG reduction, GWP reduction if it's a refrigerant. And that's all sort of calculated together as a total system benefit. So one of the things we have just started is to look at potentially how could that be impacted if the total impact of hydrogen blends and or renewable gas are factored into it. So that's an analysis that just is just gotten underway and will continue in the next year. So if you want to continue on to the last, I think it's the last one. Yeah, so this is the last one. So that goal 5.3 was focused on sort of the utility analysis, the regulator analysis. Goal 5.4 is something similar, but it's more at a customer basis. So there, for the cap and trade programs, there's a value for the carbon reduction that's been done. It's not something that's accessible to anyone but the largest emitters. But it's something that potentially could be part of an incentive structure, a different value stream for projects that are reducing carbon as well. So we're potentially going to do, and this is another agile project that we've been looking at, how that analysis might work and what are the impacts. The value of this may or may not be enough to trigger anyone to change their behavior, but we wanted to see if there's a value in doing so. And I'm not sure if there's anything. Is this the last page?
Yes.
All right. So that's a summary of the things we're looking at. Some of them are either A, happening already, B, We just launched, and C we're likely to launch, and then there's a few others that are still sort of out there. But as we mentioned before, a lot of these we've lined up with the TPM as well, where we see some potential. So, are there any questions at this point relative to anything that I or Eliza have indicated? I always scroll up to the sort of the beginning of the document, just
Yeah, of course.
where we have
The
sort
table
of
of contents.
the table, table contents. So just
Yeah, if anyone has any questions on anything specific,
Yeah.
please let us know.
in case you forgot about it. We are going to sort of finish this up in the next few days, or fine. It's basically a finished document, but if there is anyone that wants to provide some input on anything you've seen, we're open to some comments as well. We did present this to our technical advisory group a couple weeks ago. Got a lot of comments, not necessarily to change the research plan, but gave a bit of insight onto some other activities within the market as a whole. And I'm seeing a Q&A.
I think we have a question.
So, I thought it was from someone else. Oh, I got a hand and a question. Okay, so Lee asked for further specific questions about possible projects. How can we learn more or provide input? So in any case, this is all on our website. And Kate, maybe you want to paste, or Ava paste the website in. So you're welcome to send an email to the Get inbox if you have questions. If you've got proposals, there's a portal that you can provide ideas, and we scan and screen them and put them into our list, and then work as they make it to the top. So I think that there we go. Addresses those two. And then Noah, you had something to ask?
Yes, thanks, Steve. More of a comment. Glad to see the number 3 is commercial food services. I've been tracking a couple of technologies in that space and would welcome the opportunity to discuss it with your group.
Well, great.
Yeah, we're go ahead,
Go ahead,
Steve.
Eliza, since you all are
I was
working
just
on
gonna
that
say
point.
that this is yeah, I'm actually running that project, and then one of my colleagues will be taking it over when I take leave next month. But we'd love to, yeah, we'd love to talk to you about it. What specifically do you have feedback on?
There's a couple of heat recovery projects. Want to see they align with your marketplace, and a couple of more current innovations. Like to see
Yeah.
your observation
you-
of these. And
I can message you offline and see if I can schedule something for us to chat.
okay, great.
Thank you.
And to follow up with the last question Lee asked, the web page that was sent out also has a list of all our projects, current and completed projects. So you can read the details. It actually links you to the statewide ET website, but it's all sort of the same content. And that's the link to the web page as well as the email. All right. Any other questions? Liza, anything else to add?
No, thank you all for listening, participating, and hopefully giving feedback after you read the whole thing. That's all I got, Stephen.
All right. Well, Liza, thank you for your part. And we'll keep this short and sweet today. I'm sure a lot of you have year-end goals, so feel free to enjoy the extra 29 minutes, and happy holidays.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
One more question. Oh,
Oh,
no, this was just the possible, from Lee about possible projects. How can we learn more, provide input?
We got that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
Michael said something. Are there any early estimates for how many of the 2026 projects may lead to deemed measure development? Yeah, interesting question. A lot of the projects we're working on now probably could have implications to one or more projects or deemed measures. We're not explicitly developing the measures. We've decided that's better facilitated outside of the GET program. But for instance, a lot of the data that we're doing in the lab testing is something that could be available for multiple measures, one of which is being updated, I understand, and potentially another one being developed. So it's not necessarily one-to-one. The intent with the CEA work is to ultimately, or the root zone heating is to come up with some data that could help support a measure package. So those are two. I think most of the rest of them, like the agile projects that we're doing, for instance, on like the shower star is something that may ultimately lead to a measure, but probably will need, additional study depending upon what the outcome is. So I would say there's several of them that have a path to a measure, but I don't think by 2020, the end of 2026, we'll necessarily have a measure package for any of them. If that helps. Okay, good. All right. Any other quick questions or not so quick questions? If not, thank you all for attending and happy holidays.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.